When he found out who had left it, he started crying. Abel was the head of the family when he was only 4 years old. He lived alone with his mother, who was sick with a strange disease that affected her circulatory system and put her at risk of collapsing at any time. So she had to stay at home and try to make money in any way she could. Since Mildred's husband died when her son was only 1 year old, she and her son folded boxes for different businesses, most often pizza boxes. As she had to fold 12 boxes to get 1 penny. She had to fold hundreds of bills in a week so they could have enough money to eat. They don't have to pay rent because her husband built a room with a small kitchen on the edge of the city a few years before he died. It was a land that was always flooded, which made living there quite dangerous, both because of the constant risk of flooding and because of the insects that grew there. Mildred's disease could have started here, but they had nowhere else to go. Even though she was always worried about Abel's health, she would have done anything to get out of that place. If it weren't for her illness, she would have been willing to live on the street. At least they had a roof over their head. Since he wasn't very good at shopping, the boy left his house with a small wheelbarrow and went to the village, where he met Mildred's only friend. The friend helped the boy with his shopping and sent him back to his house. She wanted to help a lot more, but she was almost as poor as they were and had to take care of 2 kids. Abel, on the other hand, never complained about the long trips he had to take, even though his short, skinny legs always hated having to work more than anyone his age should. He said he should do as much as he could because he thought his mother needed him, and he wanted to get older and stronger, so people would take him seriously and hire him. One day, he was walking to the village to buy food. Along the way, he met an older woman who had trouble walking. She didn't look very old, but she seemed to have a disease that made her spine too arched, which made it hard for her to move around. The boy approached the woman, who was very well dressed and with the most incredible innocence in the world, asked her why she was crouching. That woman would burst into anger before any adult who asked her such a question. She couldn't help but laugh when that little man dressed in rags was asked a question. She told him about her illness and ended up telling him a lot about her life as they walked. The child told her he would walk with her and she could lean on his shoulders. So this woman called Ebony explained to Abel that she had lost her husband. Since then she went out to walk the roads alone that they previously traveled together. She was leaning on Abel until they reached the village. When they got there, they said their goodbyes, but even he never stopped thinking about that child. However, the people she asked about him did not know about him. Some people had seen him before, but they didn't know where he was from or where his parents were from. She was so focused on her own story that she forgot to ask the boy about him. As the months went by, nothing changed. Mildred was at home folding boxes, Abel was going back and forth to the village, and Ebony always took the same routes. But the woman and the child never saw each other again. One day, Ebony was in a store when she heard a woman talking about a child named Abel. She said that Abel was more responsible than anyone his age or older. She knew right away that they were talking about the same child who had helped her. This is how Ebony and Mildred's friend met. The friend told her the whole story while they spent the whole afternoon together. Mildred's story told her where she and her son lived and how she suffered every day because she couldn't help them leave. This made Mildred's health worse and put Abel in danger. That person's life story shocked Ebony. She was very sad when her husband died, but she had never had to work so many jobs. Her life seemed like a rose garden compared to Mildred and Abel's, where they had to pick only thorns. Ebony wanted to help, but she didn't really know how. After a few weeks, she decided that the best thing to do would be to give them money to help them stay alive. But on the day she made that decision, she ran into Abel again after a few minutes. She knew that the boy had a big heart and was simple and noble, but also proud. Abel wanted to be able to get what he needed on his own, without having to beg. At that point, Ebony knew that he would probably feel hurt if she gave him the money she had planned to give him and his mother, which was more than enough for him to rent a house in a healthier area. She thought of a different strategy for Abel to accept her help. So, she knew that when he got her donation, he shouldn't know that it was Ebony's work. It had to be something that was secret. She kept looking for the best answer until she finally found it. She would ask someone who could move around better than she could to go to Abel and Mildred's house as quickly as possible and leave $100 and a letter at her door without being seen. But her plans to stay hidden wouldn't work for long. Abel found the money in the letter, but he couldn't read, so he asked his mother to read it as soon as she started. The boy knew right away that it was Mildred who had written it. He was a very smart little boy who remembered exactly how to talk about Ebony. With the money, they were able to buy medicines for Mildred that she had not been able to get before. Soon, it meant that her health was getting much better. Noticing this change, the boy cried long. Even though Ebony's letter was short, it turned out to be a real treasure for Abel. In it, she told him that sometimes the reward for good behavior is a person. So, he shouldn't feel bad about taking help when it's given out of love and not out of a desire to help. She also told him to never forget who he was at that time. A 5-year-old boy with all the good qualities of a person in his heart. If he kept them up over the years, he would become a confident, trustworthy man who could do all kinds of brave things. Then Abel and Ebony were much more than close friends, and she was finally able to give them the help she had wanted to give from the start. Mildred couldn't be happier. Thanks to that woman who had lost her husband. She could see that her son was growing up to be the hero that Ebony had said he would be. And the reason is that when Abel was old enough to work, he decided to spend his life saving other people's lives. Thus, he became one of the most valued doctors in his village, in neighboring towns. Because he took care of each patient with a lot of love and patience. The name of the hospital that Abel later opened was Ebony. Within a short time, thousands of lives had been saved. And many more came to the world. Abel's life shows how strong and good a person can be. That made a home for him in the hearts of everyone who knew him.